It's that time of the week again, some big games coming up this weekend. Let's jump into it. Guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. Super excited to get into this one and to hear your thoughts on what you see happening this weekend. Now, in midweek, we had several twists and turns in the Championship, all of which will be discussed throughout today's video. If you do want to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and please do subscribe for a bit of regular Championship content. If you do get a spare couple of minutes as well, do check out the Patreon. Link to that is down below. Thank you so much to everyone that has signed up to that so far. You can get a few different perks and extra content over there, so do check it out. But before we do get into my score predictions, let's take a look at the current standings for the Prediction League. So we now have 14 people who've broken the 100 point barrier. It's seriously getting close up here. Championship Pro is leading the way, a decent game week for him with 11 points. I've got to say, I am slipping a little bit. I have been relegated down to League 1. I'm currently sat 8th in League 1 at the moment, so I need to claw my way back up. And then this is how League 2 is looking. So some pretty big scorelines that people were picking up during midweek, so fair play to everyone that did get a correct prediction. Without any further ado though, guys, let's jump into this one. And so let's start out with tonight's game. We got Huddersfield going up against Cardiff. Now, I don't know about you guys, but for me at this point in time, the race for the top 6 is one of the most interesting things about the Championship at the moment. We've got Cardiff and Barnsley, who have just been relentless with their form recently, and then Bournemouth and Reading, who are just about doing enough to hold on to those top 6 places at the moment, but it's going to go right down to the wire, and yeah, it should be a brilliant climax to the season. Huddersfield at the moment, very much still in this relegation battle, especially if Rotherham continue to win those couple of games in hand that they've got. The one thing that we picked up on in yesterday's video was Schofield, the Huddersfield keeper, and how he's sort of been getting on for them recently. If there's one game this season that could potentially highlight some of his weaknesses, it's probably going up against Cardiff, the team who's been by far and away the most ruthless from set pieces so far this season. Schofield, by no means, you know, he's got his strengths about his game, but one of them isn't really sort of being that commanding goalkeeper looking to claim those balls into the box. If Cardiff go into this game with a direct sort of approach, I feel like it could highlight some of Huddersfield's weaknesses in this one. And for a score prediction, I've got to be back in Cardiff. You know, ruthless in midweek, putting 4 goals past Derby. Volk's probably with the pick of the goals in that one. I'm going to go 2-0 Cardiff in this game, with FIFA saying it'll be a 1-1 draw. Next up then, and to Saturday's early kickoff, we got Watford going up against Forest. Now, if Watford played all their season at Vicarage Road so far, they probably have the title wrapped up by now. Their home form's been absolutely immense so far this season. That was carried on in midweek. They got through Wycombe 2-0. Andre Gray scoring a brace in that game. Maybe he's actually going to play a bigger part to their finish to the season than we originally thought. But Forest could prove to be a bit of a tricky opponent here. The reverse fixture finished as a goalless draw between these two. And you'd imagine that Chris Hughton's going to go into this game probably with a similar game plan to what they played against Bournemouth, where they're probably going to sacrifice a bit of their attacking play to be defensively solid and look to be quite a frustrating side to break down. Forest obviously also looking to avenge that quite disappointing result they had in midweek against Luton. Considering they had a flurry of chances in the first half, you know, Knockout looked quite lively for that one, just couldn't get anything over the line. James Garner's obviously going to have a point to prove as well. He's looked quite bright for Forest lately after being on loan at Watford for the first half of the season. Honestly, I don't see this one being a cracker in terms of an absolute goal fest. A 0-0 wouldn't surprise me, but I'm just going to edge Watford here for a 1-0 and say maybe their home form gets them over the line. But Forest, I think, will look to be quite defensively rigid, but I will go 1-0 Watford. FIFA saying 2-0 Watford. Next up then, we got Barnsley going up against Birmingham. Barnsley very much the informed side in the league at the moment, and they could seize the opportunity here to go back into the top 6 should any of the sides above them drop points. What you'd also say about Barnsley at this point in time is their upcoming fixtures are pretty favourable to them. So 4 out of their next 5 games are all up against opposition who are currently in the bottom third of the Championship. This is a real chance for Barnsley here to, you know, extend this unbelievable run even more. Birmingham have been a bit of a peculiar one recently, because although their form has ever so slightly started to pick up and turn in the right direction, you know, that's now 4 points from their last 2 matches with the point they got against Huddersfield in midweek, I still feel as if up against a good team, they're still pretty beatable. Listen, I might be proven wrong this weekend with the way that Birmingham are playing, but I feel like Barnsley probably still get through this one. Couple of really nice goals for Barnsley in midweek. The Alex Motor free kick was fantastic, and Colton Morris, you know, seems to be really playing with quite a bit of confidence in the spring in his step at the moment. I'm going to go 2-1 to the home side. FIFA saying it'll be 1-0 Birmingham. Next up then we go to Brentford up against Rotherham. Both sides having quite mixed fortunes in midweek actually. Brentford obviously lost against Norwich, where there's no real shame in that, you know, losing at Carrow Road to the best side in the league at the moment. However, if you could sum up Brentford's performance in one sort of word, it probably would be flat, really. They never really seem to click up into gear and get going. Sergio Canos did miss a very good chance before Norwich actually scored, and defensively, Brentford probably could have done a little bit better from that goal. But these are the sort of games where Brentford need to be turning up for, because, I mean, all the attention now goes to second place. I think that everyone's writing Norwich off now for winning the league from this current position. So everyone's honing in on that second spot at the moment. Rotherham got a unbelievable result in midweek and actually could turn out to be season defining. We've said it quite a few times when like Rotherham will come up against a side like Brentford. Rotherham's season ultimately isn't going to be decided on a game away at Brentford. It's going to be those ones in midweek. 3 points against Sheffield Wednesday, and in the circumstances they did it as well. Last minute, with a man down, considering they still have the games in hand, that gives them a massive surge of confidence. I'm going to back Brentford for this one, but yeah, you can't rule Rotherham out with how mental that game was in midweek. I'm going to go 2-0 Brentford. FIFA saying it'll be a 1-1 draw. Next up then, we head to Ashton Gate. We got Bristol City heading up against QPR. Each side obviously losing in midweek, so they're both looking to bounce back in this one. With QPR, there has been an obvious drop-off lately. I'd probably say in the last 3 matches, really. It started with that goalless draw at Deepdale, where I thought they just looked a little bit jaded after that one, and that's really carried on into their last couple of matches where they've lost each of them. In midweek, they did have chances against Barnsley, but ultimately defensively they weren't up to scratch. Now, Bristol City got maybe a little bit unfortunate in midweek to lose in the fashion they did against Bournemouth. They certainly had their chances moving forward, and you know, it was a rare mistake by Daniel Bentley really, and the other one was a pretty poor goal to concede. But the biggest testament that I can give to Nigel Pearson since he's come in at Bristol City is they've been much more threatening going forward. 7 goals scored in the 3 games that he's been in charge for so far, which is a drastic improvement on how they were shaping up going forward previously. For a score prediction for this one, I'd probably have my money on Bristol City, to be honest with you. I'm going to go for a 2-1 home victory. I've seen a little bit more from them recently, and with QPR, I expect maybe they'll continue to fall off a little bit. I'm going to go 2-1 Bristol City in this game, with FIFA also agreeing with me. Next up, we then go to Coventry up against Derby. Now, this game comes at an interesting time for both sides this season, really. Rooney made quite a big call for Derby in midweek in his team selection for that game against Cardiff, where he almost maybe saw that one as a bit of a free hit, really, making several key changes, resting some players ahead of this game at the weekend, which ultimately for Derby's season is going to be a lot more crucial. Coventry themselves have had a bit of a fall off recently. They've just not really had that spark about their play going forward. They've only scored more than 1 goal in 1 of their last 9 matches now. Scoring goals has been a bit of an issue for them, and obviously with their loss in midweek when Middlesbrough went a little bit more direct against them, the defensive line couldn't handle that at times. So it's going to make for an interesting game, this one, because neither side is safe just yet. I'm going to go for a draw, and maybe a cagey draw in this one. I'm going to go for a 1-1 in this game. Rooney's plan very much could pay off, whereby, you know, a lot of their first teamers come back in for this game. They're a little bit more fresh, having not played all too much over the midweek, but yeah, it's a difficult one to call. I'm going to go for a 1-1. FIFA's going 1-0 Derby. Next up then, we head to the Den. We got Millwall up against Blackburn. Now, with the way that Blackburn are currently playing, if there's one game that you don't really want at the moment, it's away to Millwall. You know, if Blackburn continue to sort of play in this lethargic fashion and just limp over the finish line for the rest of the season, because they're not going to go up or down this season, Blackburn, are they? You know, they're going to be mid-table. I wouldn't be surprised if the board does look to make that change when it comes to Tony Mowbray come the end of the season, because we were really speaking about Blackburn a couple of months ago as serious playoff contenders, and with that squad, you know, I think that's only fair. Millwall obviously in midweek were in action against my side North End. By no means was it the best sort of performance from Millwall, but if there was any side that was going to go on and win that game in the second half, it was the home team that was pressing for the winner. Billy Mitchell, I thought, really impressive. Another good showing from him in midfield. He's obviously an upcoming talent that Millwall have in their ranks at the moment. And for a score prediction, I think I've got to be back in the home side. I'm going to go 2-1 Millwall. With FIFA going, it'll be a 1-1 draw. Next up, we then head to Cow Road. We got Norwich going up against Luton, and Norwich just look like this unstoppable force at the moment. Norwich fans won't want to jinx it, but with that result against Brentford in midweek, I don't think anyone can see them being caught from here on in. 10 points clear now. Emi Buendia is the man in demand at this point in time. The guy's an absolute joke. It was a wonderful goal scored in midweek, and to be honest, Norwich should have been maybe a little bit more comfortable in that game, to be honest with you. They missed a couple of other big chances, but they did get over the line in the end, and they probably get through this one as well. I just can't see anyone stopping them at the moment with the way they're playing. Now, in fairness to Luton, they have had a real upturn in form recently. There was one point a couple of weeks ago where we were starting to ask the question of, okay, maybe Luton might start to be nervously looking over their shoulder with the way that their form had tailed off, but now unbeaten in their last 3. The game in midweek was maybe a little bit of a smash and grab performance, but they'll take that every day of the week. 1-0 against Forest. For For this game, I've got to be back in the home side, I think, with the way they're playing. I'm going to go 2-0 Norwich, with FIFA saying it'll be a 1-1 draw. Next up, we then go to North End up against Bournemouth. It's Ben Pearson returning to Deepdale. I'm very excited for this one. Now, ultimately, Preston in midweek were pretty disappointing. We started out fairly brightly against Millwall. Cheddar scored that fantastic volley, and then the second half, our energy levels just completely fell off a cliff. I would expect Alex Neil to make several changes for the team for this game, just to freshen up the squad more than anything, and it will be a tough game against this Bournemouth side, who I'm still not completely sold on, but Woodgate has got them ticking over, you know, back-to-back wins for them in the Championship. Now to come back from behind against Bristol City is a testament to their character. The one thing that I'd say about North End, and I think this has been a general pattern for Preston throughout the season so far, is against the sort of like footballing sides, we'll call them, we've actually showed up in a lot of those games, because I think they play into our hands a little bit, whereby they allow us to press a little bit. The sort of high energy football that we want to be playing, these are the sort of games which suit us. When we do come up against the sort of Millwalls, the Cardiffs, the Rotherhams, the Wycombes, who go more direct against us, that's when we completely fall apart, because we've got no sort of plan B to fall back on. I'll take you to the reverse fixture of this game earlier on in the season, when we were absolutely sparkling against Bournemouth to pick up all 3 points. Scott Sinclair scored that fantastic goal. The realist in me says that Bournemouth probably get through this game. The optimist in me says that we show up for this one, so I'm going to go somewhere in the middle and go for a 1-1 draw. FIFA's going to say it'll be 2-0 Bournemouth. Next up then, we go to Reading up against Sheffield Wednesday. Reading just about doing enough to maintain their top 6 position at this point in time, but the real booster that they'll have is players coming back from injury. It was nice to see Puskas getting a start in midweek and back within the goals as well against Rovers. They also could have Yaku Mete back within contention for the squad this weekend, which will really be a massive boost and could even be the thing that tips them over the edge in terms of getting over the line for the second half of the season. Sheffield Wednesday, it's really hard to see a way back from here now. If we learnt one thing over the Championship over the past few years, it's to sort of never say never in this situation. You know, we even saw some great escapes last year, but that's now 5 consecutive defeats. And given the manner of which they've lost their last 2 games especially, you know, being 2-0 up against Luton, losing 3-2, losing against Rotherham in the last minute with them down to 10 men, it was a tough first introduction for Darren Moore. I think, like a lot of other Wednesday fans, saw that game against Rotherham as a bit of an all or nothing for Wednesday. And I really don't see them climbing out of this. I'm going to go 2-1 Reading in this game, with FIFA going 1-0 Wednesday. Next up we then head to Stoke up against Wycombe. Now Stoke have had a pretty tough run of matches recently, with their last 3 being against Barnsley, Brentford and Swansea. Losing all 3 of them has sort of seen their playoff aspirations slip away from them. They're now 10 points off the top 6. However, the game they lost in midweek was in very controversial circumstances against Stoke. I think that everyone watching that replay back at the end of the match for the Swansea penalty agrees that Stoke have been incredibly hard done by there. And up until that point, I mean, they themselves had chances to go and win the game. Stephen Fletcher had a fantastic chance which cannoned off the post. Obviously, Nick Powell gave Stoke the lead. He's really been their in-form player at this point in time. But they'll probably see this as a bit of an opportunity now to get back to winning ways up against this Wycombe side, who is now 12 points off safety. Wycombe in midweek, in the end, Watford probably in the end had it a little bit too easy, although they did get back into the game and had that goal ruled out for offside. Very tight call in the end. For a score prediction in this one though, I think I will edge towards Stoke. I don't think it's going to be the highest scoring game of the weekend. I'm going to go 1-0 to the home side, with FIFA agreeing with me in that one. And then we're leaving things on Swansea up against Middlesbrough. And I tell you what, it's a tough game really to predict this one. I've gone back and forth with what I see actually happening in this game. Either way, I think it's going to be pretty tight. That's been the case with a lot of Swansea and Borough games recently. Middlesbrough's record on the road has picked up. They have been pretty decent. Obviously, they did win in midweek, 2-1 coming back from behind in that game. Swansea, I mean, in many ways, everything went their way in midweek, really, with Brentford dropping points and that quite controversial last-minute penalty, I think it's fair to say. It just got them through that game against Stoke. Should fortune fall their way once again in this game though? I'm not so sure. Middlesbrough have been decent at nullifying games against the top 6 opposition lately. Obviously they had that win against Reading, that goalless draw against Norwich as well. Obviously we've recently had the news of Neil Warnock extending his stay at Middlesbrough, which I think is good news for Middlesbrough. You know, we've already seen the drastic improvements that have been there this season. It's either going to be a game that goes one goal either way, or they do cancel each other out. I'm going to go 1-1 for this one and sort of sit on the fence for it. FIFA's going 2-0 Swansea. I really could see that one going either way. But guys, there we have it. There are my championship score predictions for what I see happening in this weekend's action. So do get all your thoughts in the comments down below. Get your score predictions in there and get yourself onto the prediction leaderboard. But other than that, thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to go ahead and leave a like if you did go in to enjoy. Please do subscribe as well for a bit of regular championship content. Check out the Patreon link down below. But other than that, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.